All right, so lesson 6 from unit 0. Divisibility test for 2 is what? The last digit is an even number. So that's 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Last digit is an even number. So in 22, there's a 2. So that means that 22 is divisible by 2. The last digit of 330 is 0. That means 330 is divisible by 2. 330 divisible by 2 is 165. Now, I think I left it there on the key because I don't know any divisibility rules for 11, and I didn't check, but apparently 11 goes into 165. So I should have reduced them by 11. You always have to check one more time. That makes it 1 over 15. Okay? I don't know any rules about that one. So for 7, 11, and 13, you're going to have to just try it. If it's a big number that's left, try, in this case, you're trying 11. 11's a prime number. There's nothing that goes into 11 but 11 and 1. 165, try 165 divided by 11. If it goes in, as in it gives you a whole number, then it's divisible by 11. So I think I left that off the key. I apologize. That's the final answer for that one. Even I get this stuff wrong. So it's just not that easy, and it's just no one rule about it. I think that's a problem. So I recommend to people using at least the 2, the 3, and the 5 divisibility tests, because I think it's really helpful. If it's even, take a 2 out. This one, the top one, the numerator is even, but the denominator is not. So 2's not going to work. I know that. I don't have to pick up my calculator and divide that by 2 because the last number is not even. The divisibility test for 3 is what? The sum of all the digits. If that number comes up to something that's divisible by 3 and gives you a whole number, then you can divide the number by 3. So in this case, 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3. It gets you a whole number that also coincidentally gives you another 3. Then you know you can divide that by 3. 27 is 2 plus 7 is 9. 9's divisible by 3. So divide by 3, divide by 3. That gets you 18 over 9. Now, 18 is 1 plus 8, which is also 9. So 18 is also divisible by 3, so is 9. So you're going to get 6 over 3, okay? These are both numbers that are divisible by 3, so keep going. That gives you 2 over 1, which you're going to leave as a 2, okay? Now, some people probably tried 9 right away. Or 27 right away. It turns out 54 divided by 27 is 2. So any combination of these will work, but you can see how if you didn't know your factor tables, that 3 would get you there. Okay, so don't worry about how long it takes to get you there, as long as you get to the same final answer. All right, so the divisibility test for 5 says the last digit is 5 or 0. Last digit is 5 or 0. So 125 ends in a 5. That's divisible by 5. Bottom number ends in a 5. It's divisible by 5. So put that in your calculator, and you're going to get 25 over 45. Well, those numbers still end in a 5. Do it again. So that's 5 over 9. Okay, some people knew to try to divide these numbers by 25, and they would have got there in one step. But you can get there just knowing 2, 3, and 5. Okay, let me just repeat. 11, 13, and 7, there are no tricks that really work for me. So if you haven't, I would still try 7, 11s, and 13s. Okay. There's a 10. Most people know that if you're looking at something with a 0 on the end, so last digit is 0, they divide this by 10 and this by 10, and what you're going to see people do is they're just going to go like that. That's dividing by 10. So you get 15 over 12, and then 1 plus 5 is 6, so you can divide this by 3. 1 plus 2 is 3, so you can divide that by 3. Use the divisibility rule for 3. That gets you the 5 over 4. Okay? No mixed number, no decimal. All right. I should have made that a dot. 7 times 1 over 15. Well, the 7 is really over 1. 1 times 15 is 15. 1 times 7 is 7. There's my final answer. If that was a 14, you could take a 7 out of both, but you can't, so that's as good as you can. That should be just a big dot. That's over 1. You can go across and get 112 over 2, and then divide them both by 2. That'll give you 56 over 1, which is 56. Or back here, you can take 2 out of the 2, get a 1. 2 out of 16 and get an 8 and get a 56 over 1. Okay? So whatever way you want to do that. Sorry for the horrible handwriting. All right, that's a dot. So 14 times 5 is 70. 25 times 7 is 175. That needs to be reduced. This ends in a 0. That ends in a 5. So they're both divisible by 5. I don't have my calculator with me. What I did, though, is I went 7 into these is 2, 5 into that is 1, and that's a 5. So I'm eventually going to get 2 over 5. Let's see. If I take a 5 out, I should have... I don't have my calculator. I need to go get my calculator. Rats. I think... Hold on, let me grab it. $70 divided by 5 is 14. 175 divided by 5 is 35. And then divide them both by 7. And then you'll get the 2 over 5. Okay? All right. Let's see. 312 divided by 156 is a 2. 38 divided by 19 is a 2. So that's an equal. That's just an easy way to do that. This gets you a repeating 4, 5. This one gets you a 8, 3 repeating. That number is bigger than that number. Even if I tried to reduce them, this reduces to a 5 over 6. This reduces to a 5 over 11. I don't know that that's helpful. I can go big and try to find the least common multiple, but all I was asked is are they equal, greater than, or whatever, and that gets, the decimal gets it. You can also do a little logic. 5 out of 6 is almost 6 out of 6, so that's a lot of 6s. This one is only about 10 over, is only about half. This is only about half. So if this is most and this is half, then this has to be greater than that. Hopefully you followed that. All right. Cross multiplication. I really want you to highlight this. Cross multiplication is only across the equal sign. So if you don't have an equal sign, a lot of these other things, like this one here and this one here, there's no equal sign. There's no cross multiplication going on, okay? So if you have an equal sign, you can cross multiply. And it says if the 8 is replaced by a 12. So 4 over 5 equals 12 over what? Because these have to be equal, I just sit there and go, okay, well, this is times 3 to get a 12. So this is times 3. This must be a 15. Okay? So the final answer is 15. we've been reducing fractions all day, and that's a hard thing to do. Some people just expand them, I guess is the word I can use, to go from small to big. Okay, use the same kind of concept. Other people do remember how to cross multiply, so they'll take 4, if you put an x there, sorry about all the scribbling, if you put an x there, 4 times x is 4x, 5 times 12, is 60, so that would be 4x equals 60, and then they remember how to divide by 4. This is actually Unit 1 that we're doing next. So we're going to do a lot more practice with this in the next section. So I really recommend, if you understand that way works. If you remember this way works as well. Okay? So cross multiply, that's why we're practicing. Some of them are a little impractical to use anything but cross multiplication. So we're just going to make sure that everybody understands how to do that. So this would be 54x equals 12 times 108. 54x equals 12 times 108 is 1296. And then you divide by the same to get rid of. You're allowed to do that. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So that gets us to 24. Okay? Another way to go would just take 108 and divide it by 54. That's what, here, let me write it. 108, I'm getting there. 108 divided by 54 is, did I write that down? Is 2. Okay, so it must have been 54 times 2 got you 108. Let me erase some of this scribbly stuff. Times 2 got you 108. So that means this has to be times 2. That means x is 24. I mean, that was pretty easy to do that one. Same with this one. This was 3 times 5 to get 15. So this must be what? 60. Okay. You can cross multiply. It'd be 3x equals 12 times 15. 3x equals 180 divided by 3 gives you x equals 60. Goes that way too? Either way. Okay. All right. Ratios and rates. Ratios compare amounts, describing the relationship between the quantities. Ratios compare quantities using division and fractions. Okay. Computations. That means how do we figure out ratios? We use fractions to figure out ratios. Okay. The important difference between a ratio and a fraction is that the ratio describes a proportional relationship. So in other words, there's context. In other words, shots made, containers, units, okay? There's context. It's more of a word problem, and fractions are just isolated numbers, okay? So a ratio is a type of fraction. I guess you could say that. So if you get a word problem, there's more word problems in your red book on that page for this. Basketball players takes 50 jump shots during practice. She makes 28 of them. The ratio, here it is, the ratio of shots made to shots taken. So the first thing you come to as you're reading left to right goes on the top, okay? The second thing goes on the bottom. So the first thing is the numerator. Second thing is the denominator. Shots to shots made to shots taken. 28 to 50. So this is the total shots taken, okay? So that's the fraction right there. And then we always want to simplify. So these even, you want to divide by 2, you get 14. Divide by 2, you get 25. 14 is only 2 and 7, and 25 is only 5 and 5. So there's nothing else to come out. There's nothing else in common. So that's the lowest form of that fraction, the most simplified. Sometimes you see ratios with the dots in the middle. Sometimes you see them with a little 2 in them, or sometimes you just see them as a simplified fraction. But notice all the forms are simplified. It's still fractional, so they are simplified. All right. All right. Paul was comparing the amount of calories And a personal pizza, 2 calories and a sub. So pizza, calories, 2 sub calories. So pizza calories is 600. Sub sandwich calories are 450. We need to reduce that. We can divide by 10. That gets me 60 over 45. These are equivalent fractions. You can divide by 5 because they end in a 0 or a 5. So, what? 12 over 9. These are divisible by 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. It's divisible by 3. 9 is divisible by 3. So that's a 4 over 3. So a ratio that represents the calorie comparison is this way. Also accepted would be that way. Okay. Also accepted would be that way. So any of those things. Okay. We're having a party. We have 22 people. 10 are women. So total, sometimes I just start writing so if they have a lot of information. Total number of people is 22. Number of women, is 10. Which is greater, the ratio of women to men, or the ratio of women to the total? What's women to men? Women to men. Let's see. I had total and I have women. What's the number of men here? Number of men is 22 minus 10, which is 12. So the number of men is 12. The number of women is 10. The women was 10 and the total was 22. Which one is greater? Which ratio is larger? You can put them in your calculator. Let's see. 10 divided by 12 is 0.83. 10 divided by 22 is 0.45. So this one's a greater ratio just by doing that. Think about it. 10 out of 12 is most, whereas this is about half. So this is the greater one. Greater, larger, bigger ratio. Okay. Gosh, sorry about the horrible handwriting. Okay, rates. We just did ratios. Rates are a special type of ratio. A rate is a ratio that compares different quantities with different units. Sometimes you see the word per. Unit rates are usually one measure. And it says unit rates are written in decimal form with units in fractional form. That sounds a little complicated. Let's look at that. So an employer wants to rent 6 buses to transport 300 people. Okay. So let's set that up with the fraction. The first thing goes on top. The second thing goes underneath. And then you reduce it. 6 does go into that. What you can do is they're both even. Divide by 2 and you're going to get 3. Divide by 2 and you're going to get 150. They're both going to be divisible by 3. So that'll give you the 1, and that gives you, divide this one by 3, you get 150. So that, or not 150, 50. So you don't have to divide by 6, because I don't know the divisibility rules for 6. I do 2 and then 3 gets me there. Or you can try the 6 right away. Either way. So you end up with 1 bus for every 50 people. Okay. So this would be considered its unit rate. This is acceptable as well. That implies the same thing. They're just saying sometimes when you work out the unit rate, it'll come out to a decimal, which I think one of these other ones will happen, okay? So you can leave it in fraction form, but if it wants a decimal answer, this is what you would do. You would take and change the wording, 1 bus for every 50 people, It would be like kind of the logical way to say that. Let's try one of these fractional ones. We have 18 blocks, decimal ones. 18 blocks to 20 minutes. Let's see, reduced by 2 gives you 9 blocks in 10 minutes. That's as small as I get. So expressed in a simplified fraction. We are done, okay? But if they had asked for a unit rate, that would be 9 literally divided by 10, which is 0.9. So it would be 0.9 blocks per minute. Okay, so sometimes they're saying it'll turn out to be a decimal if they want a unit rate, all right? Let's see, 300 miles in 5 hours, reduced by 5, that gets you what? 60 miles and 1 hour. Find the unit rate, so that would be 60 miles per hour. You can write it like that if you want, okay? You can write that all out, 60 miles per hour if you want, or just put it like that. Because when you reduce, it is a unit rate, okay? This one, when I reduced, it wasn't a unit rate. I had to then actually do 9 divided by 10. When it comes out to 1 per something, it is a unit rate, okay? 1 something per something is a unit rate. I'm trying to remember, I don't think, there might be unit rates in the homework. I don't know if I had any unit rates on the final. We'll see when we do the, on the test. We'll see when we do the test. All right, that's it for that one.